every fall for 14 years now, I struggle making that transition to balancing getting dinner on the table with living this homeschool life. So today I am joining with a couple other ladies to collaborate with and share with you ideas on how to make that transition, meal planning tips, that sort of thing. So when you're done with my video, you're gonna click on the screen and go check out their videos as well. My first tip is to make shortcuts for yourself. For our family, that means that I do a couple of things. One, I make up big jars of spices, of spice mixtures. So things like a barbecue rub, our favorite Cajun seasoning, an Italian rub, taco seasoning, fajitas, anything like that. I go through my recipe, multiply it to make a bigger batch, and then I store it in usually 2-cup size jars. I also do the same thing with marinades. I will take my recipe and make a big batch of it and then pour each of them into 1 or 2 ounce or 1 or 2 cup jars and then either pop them in the freezer or in the fridge, depending on the recipe. And then with these, I've got dinner halfway done. I can grab some meat because we usually have meat in the freezer, and then throw whatever veggies I've got, a grain, and dinner's done. So that's a huge help for busy nights. I mean, for any time, but especially for those busy nights or the nights when you are just not wanting to cook and the temptation of the drive-thru is strong. Next tip is to find a good meal planning system that works for you at that time and don't be afraid to change it. I have used Plan to Eat for years, about a decade, and I absolutely love it. So much so that the renewal is in Google Calendar, and I told my husband that if I ever die, that he needs to make sure and pay attention to that so that he doesn't lose our recipes. But I have a couple other ways that I vary depending on what's going on at the time. So sometimes I will plan a month out at a time, and I have this as a free handout, so I'll have the link below. And I always include some flexibility, some blank days, that kind of thing. But sometimes planning it out for a month is what I need so that I don't have to keep thinking about meal planning. Sometimes I do it 2 weeks at a time. When we first got married, I read the idea of using categories to plan each night. And back then it was things like chicken night, pork night, Mexican night, that kind of thing. Soup night. Now my categories are more like crockpot, Instapot night, sandwiches, on the go, those kind of things. So that also can be a big help, and those categories change depending on the season of life we're in. So that's kind of the key, is that whatever season you're in, be willing to adjust it and adapt for that, and plan the way that's going to work for you. Number 3 is another handout, and I'll have this one linked down below as well. Both of these are free. And it's a list of go-to meal ideas. Now, as a mom, you probably already have these ideas in your head. My mouth is so dry right now. So you probably already have a lot of these ideas in your head. But one, sometimes pulling them out of your head, especially when you feel like you've been eating the same thing, it's hard to do. And 2, if you're ever sick or someone else is doing the meal planning for whatever reason, they've got some ideas. On mine, I have a spot for favorite dinners, last minute dinner ideas. So when it's 30 minutes before dinner and you forgot to plan or life has happened, on the go meals, lunches, snacks, breakfasts, and then just a little extra box. This lives inside my planner. I need to create an updated one. Obviously, this one is blank. I update this every year depending on what our favorites are currently. But I keep this in my planner, and I've got it. I don't always use it. Most weeks I don't. But, well, except for the lunches and lunches and snacks ideas. That one I do. Otherwise I don't, but still having it and brain dumped out of my head means that it's a lot easier for me to use it when I need it. So again, both of those ideas, or both of those handout links will be down there. Tip number 4 is to start early in your day. Now, this one has definitely been a learn the hard way type of advice. Every morning, most mornings, look ahead to make sure I know what's for dinner. And I try to go ahead and lay out any meat then, if I need to. And then, depending on my morning, if I have time before school starts, I go ahead and chop any veggies, make up any seasonings, whatever I need to do. Otherwise, I try to do it mid-morning if the kids are occupied, or at lunchtime. Whatever I can do earlier in the day, again, means that later, if things have fallen apart or the gravity of the drive-through is really pulling me in, I can rest assured knowing that I've already got a good start. So dinner is not going to be very difficult because I've already taken the time to get started. It also means that I can do it in small chunks. So if I only have 10 minutes, well, what can I do in 10 minutes to prepare for dinner? Whereas later in the day, I might, the whole meal itself might need 40 minutes of preparation or whatever. But broken up over the day, when I have 5 or 10 minutes versus later when I don't have 40 minutes, I've already got that started. I am a big fan of planning for failure. For school days, I call it planning to be behind. But just in general, I plan for failure, meaning not that I think I'm going to fail, but what can I do ahead of time in case things do go haywire? I've kind of learned that one the hard way. So now, including with meals, I try to think about that. What can I go ahead and do here and there so that later I don't have to do as much? And my last tip for you, and this is speaking to me as well, is to take the shortcuts. Give yourself permission to do that. Whether the shortcut is that 2 nights a week, the family's on their own, or it's the shortcut of buying cut up veggies at the grocery store, or whatever that is, buying the pre-marinated meats, buying the rotisserie chicken, buying the shortcut meals or pre-prepped or the half-prepped meals at the grocery store, like Costco meals, or a lot of grocery stores, Fresh Market has them, you know what I'm talking about, usually near the deli. It's okay to take those shortcuts. And I know sometimes, especially as homeschool moms, we feel like we need to do it all. And we're home, so we should use our money the best way and not cook or not buy those shortcuts because we have the time. Well, we are home and we have the time, but that time is often spent doing all the other things. So give yourself permission to do that. What was it, 2021 school year. That year I set out, and on one of my categories for my meal is that every week I took a shortcut meal. And that varied. Sometimes it was just a shortcut of buying a jar of spaghetti sauce instead of making spaghetti sauce, which is another thing that I make a big batch of and freeze in small portions. Remind me. Sometimes it was that. Sometimes it was buying one of the pre-prepped meals from the grocery and everything in between. But I needed that permission to feel comfortable and accept that it's okay that I'm using that. So I'm giving you that permission as well.